Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. I hope the updated overlay is clears up some confusion for some.
Yeah. There was a bit of a misunderstanding on Tuesday evening, as I understand it.
Yeah. For everybody who watches some dude on YouTube's Twitch stream, we had an identity confusion in a rant related to David's spring cleaning topic, or project is a better way of putting it. So yeah, what about bolt action assassin? Broken. Oh!
Look, Orinoco, this is the stream of broken promises. If I'm not here to break, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. What's a few promises between friends?
Broken promises and broken hearts. He does them all. Oh dear.
So
right.
David at the bottom and Paul is at the top. Yes, cheese me. Even I am confused.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Paul is the top. Yeah, we'll go with that. That's definitely
no. Oh God, that has completely different connotations. Fuck me sideways.
Right, so hello everybody. Welcome to another Yellow Belly Tabletop live stream. It's Thursday night. Time for some nonsense and toy soldiers and painty. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, over the next couple of hours, David and I will be doing our usual routine. First thing that we'll do is talk about what we're going to be hobbying on, if we can manage to get any hobby done, because frankly we've got a lot to talk about tonight. Second, we will talk about what we did at Gaming Club on Monday, because we have a regular meet-up there with our club. Then we'll interact with chat for a bit. There isn't actually any news, I don't think, for us to cover. But
it's too hot for hobby today. How hot is it where you are, Cheese Me? We're British. We talk about the weather a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely too hot here. But then again, anything of about 12 degrees is too fucking hot for me. What was I going to say? So, yeah, we might talk about some news, but I don't think there is much, frankly.
Yes, there is. There's a fucking train crash to talk about.
Oh God, he's on. Quick, let's go on.
Not even 24 hours, and they're fixing it because it's more leaky than a sieve.
The salt is on.
You can't let that slide by. It's fucking egregious.
So it's about 27 centigrade where Cheese Me is, which is too fucking hot. 39. Oh, you're in Texas, though.
Yeah, he's
Crispy.
in Texas,
Jesus
like me.
Christ,
Fuck it, it's Texas.
Oh, my God.
He's used to it. It's not a fucking English or a fucking Western European home, which is designed to keep the cold out at winter and the heat in.
I'm feeling vaguely nauseated by the thought of that. Anyway.
What, 39?
39. Fuck that. And then, come 9 o'clock, we'll chat about a couple more games we played at UK Games Expo, because to be fair, one of the main drivers for David and I when we attend UKGE is getting games played, demo games, trying game systems, trying to discover new stuff. And I think it was fair to say, mate, although it was a bit disappointing on the board game front for both of us in terms of...
fucking miniatures games this year, Jesus fucking H Christ. So much to get our teeth stuck into.
If there was a UKGE where the wargaming took, I think, the edge. I mean, just look at the awards with Moonstone, taking a shit ton of them. If there was a UKGE where wargaming had a bit of an edge on the board gaming community, this year's was, it was in there as a candidate, I reckon. So yeah, we've got another couple of games to talk about. One of which is an established game that's been around forever, and in fact David has a ton of stuff, but we've never got it to the table. So we took a demo game opportunity.
That's it. You fucking shamed me after the German called me out for 3D printing too much shit for a game that is based on 3D printing. Well done, Bellend. Well done.
Should we just... I am right. You've got everything, haven't you?
I've got a fair bit. Yeah, I got the first Kickstarter, not the second Kickstarter. Got a load of their Patreon shit. But we'll talk about that more later.
Let me talk about it. And then a new game, or a game that's not even out yet, but is in sort of playtest, which was, again, rather exciting for you, mate, wasn't it? It's a shame Tim's not here, actually, because it might be right up Timothy's street, mightn't it?
Yes, it possibly. It might be. It might not be.
I don't know. He likes his
not.
bot
It's
wars.
not quite bot war now, is it? It's not quite bot war because I enjoyed it and I didn't enjoy bot war. But we'll gloss over that subject matter.
God. Right. Anyway.
Look, the salt is flowing freely this evening. I can't help it.
I don't think you've given me a desk cam. Yes, you have. He has given me.
Yes,
a desk
I have.
cam.
You're just unprepared.
Shall we get the technical difficulties out of the way?
No, you're going to admit you fucked up because guess what? You fucked up.
I feel picked on. I feel...
Daddy, he's bullying me!
Basically, I sat up last night preparing some video content, a bit like we did last week when we chatted about our main topic. I prepared some video content to run in the background just to give you guys something to watch, and I forgot to render it, so we don't actually have it.
Because you're old and senile and fucking useless when it comes to technology.
We've got a few stills, but the visuals may be a little bit dull compared to last week's game that we played through. So, mate, do you want me to go first with what we're doing tonight?
Yeah, because I haven't quite decided. I've just got all my Flames of War out, and I don't know why I got all my Flames of War out.
Because actually, you can explain to people that you're on a cusp now. You're sort of changing from one to the other. Me,
Darren, there's not enough salt there. I'm just saying, there's not enough salt.
Fucking amateur amounts of salt.
Fucking where's the gritting, Laurie?
So, basically, one of the projects.
You've done a different camera view.
Yeah.
You can internet.
One of the things I've been... David and I have a regular board gaming week at my place, probably once or twice if we can a month. And we've moved on to doing some Gloomhaven, which is something I've owned forever and never done anything with, very guiltily. And...
you're talking about Saturday now, aren't you?
Well, I made a start on some miniatures. So this one I painted ages ago. This is the Scoundrel mini from Gloomhaven. And I'm trying to mimic the colour schemes from within the artwork of the game as close as possible. To be fair, the miniatures are not one-for-one representations of the artwork. There's quite a bit of sort of like artistic license gone into them. And this was one I did for us to play on Saturday, which we might talk about. This is the Tinkerer. Because I know David likes these sort of steampunky support characters.
Well, it's not just the fact it was steampunky and like right up my street. The character class is basically jack of all trades, master of fuck all, but can support for days.
Yeah.
Which is what I usually play when it comes to RPGs, roleplay, and like digital stuff as well.
Yep. So I'm working through them. David and I had a chat after our game, and we decided we're going to try a different approach. And we sort of...
Genuinely, Saturday night, whilst it was fucking enjoyable, It was so stressful.
Yeah.
So goddamn stressful. It was my first time playing Gloomhaven. I didn't have a fucking clue what was going on. We had our ass handed to us basically twice over.
I thought there was an important rule we missed that made that hard, but I'll get to that when we talk about it later.
Yeah.
But basically, we sort of net listed it because, like David said, we did get pretty dominated by the standard difficulty first scenario. So we looked online and people said, well, the characters in Gloomhaven, the board game, when you're playing only with 2 players rather than the full 4, you've got to be a little bit careful about who you pick and pair up. And so I'm now painting up, I think this is called the Spell Weaver, but basically think wizard. So what we've got is like purplish lilac skin with encrusted blue gemstones growing out of her physical flesh, and then like red robes and a bit of armor.
I think she's meant to be like an elemental type, isn't she?
And then I've got these, there's like flames licking around her feet because she's floating off the ground, and then she's got these flaming fists, sort of like flames running off both of her hands. So this is what I'm going to be slapping some paint on tonight. You know, just doing some, they're only board game minis, so we're just going to be slapping some base colours down and washes. This one's probably going to be one of the hardest of them, simply because of the vibrancy. You're supposed to put blues and pinks and reds, all, and then the 2-tone skin. It's all a bit mad. So this is what I'm going to be working on. You can see it on the table, so I'll talk about it. This is one of the last pieces for my British bolt action army that I need to get prepared for a game next week. So this is a 25-pounder that David 3D printed for me, and I need to kit bash basically a crew for this. I've got some spare British Commonwealth troops, so this is on the table but isn't going to get worked on tonight because, as I say, I need to kit bash the crew first.
Annie, you star.
So, no, Dan, we ran everything pen and paper, mate. I have seen that there are apps online, but we did everything sort of like the old school. I'll be honest, if a board game is made to run without an app, I'll run it that way. I only use apps when they're an integral part of the game. For example, like Mansions of Madness, which you can't use in 2nd edition without the app. Darren says he can't do any more salt, otherwise YouTube's spam filter will block him. So, what about you, mate? What are you up to tonight?
Come down to the table. Come down to the table. Mm-hmm. We've got a bit of an eclectic mix going on. We've got some Flames of War tanks that require gun barrels fitting.
Okay.
And finishing off, because we have most of it built. So we've got all the M24s built, all of the Pershings are built, the Calopies I need to build the turrets for and the missile rack launcher. The Easy 8s, as you can see, are missing barrels. And then we're just working on bits from UKGE because we've got a problem of needing to get it all painted by next UKGE. So I'm currently cleaning up the squid from Annie at Bad Squidoo.
Oh, right, okay.
The giant squid feeding frenzy. But the best thing is, Paul, I didn't realise you get 2 squids in the bottle or in the box. You get this one, and then you get this one. You get 2.
Oh, okay.
So I've now got 2 creatures for Leviathan and
so
for
you've got enough
Marder.
bits to build 2 full?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I have, because I've got a tail piece here and some tentacles. How many tentacles do I have? I mean, this is starting to sound like hentai porn over here, but 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 tentacles for 2 squids.
Okay, cool. So like you say, more bang for your buck. Are you going to do them both similar as objectives, or maybe save the parts for a second for something more exotic?
I'm not entirely sure. We'll
Okay.
cross that bridge when I get there, because I don't have a base, so I'm literally just cleaning these up for cleaning these up's sake.
Oh, okay. Then maybe
And then
going
they
on
need
to
washing.
the old Flames of War.
Yes.
Right.
And, then I'm off to the 3D printer over the weekend to print some bases. Because Muggins here has lost a base for his fucking dwarven fleet for Armada. I need some bases for this shit.
Mate.
And I'm forever losing shit.
Well, to be fair, you lost the gun shields off one of these, didn't you?
Yeah, I lost the mantlet off the M24 Chaffee. I found that when I was tidying in my bedroom. My life is a mess.
So, yeah. So that's that. Now then, let me just open up this.
What about Cheese Me asked what about Gloomhaven?
Well, do you know what, Cheese Me? The one thing about Gloomhaven is I think there's 16 miniatures, because the only miniatures in Gloomhaven are the playable characters. So there isn't going to be, in terms of like what about Assassin's Creed, etc. There's not going to be a similar scenario with Gloomhaven, because it's just a completely different kettle of fish. It's got nowhere near the same degree of scale, or there's just not that much to it. Essentially, the other thing is with Gloomhaven, for people who have who've not played it. So with Gloomhaven, you unlock the characters, the playable characters, in stages as you play the game. I want to sort of save the spoilers for myself, so I probably won't open and paint a character until we unlock that playable character within the game. The only ones I'm going to tackle initially are the 6 starting options. Yeah, that's it. Exactly it, Darren. Exactly it. You get 6 that are open and are eligible to be picked as starting characters. So obviously I'll do those. But everything else is locked behind some in-game achievement or in-game story progress, and you don't get an opportunity to play with that model and that character.
It's like Assassin's Creed. Oh, wait a minute.
Yes, but there's only like 18 miniatures, not 180.
Is that why you've hit the regret button and now gone back down to Gloomhaven? It's slightly more achievable for you.
No, to be honest, it's because I'm annoyed about owning things that I've never played. It's starting to become something that pisses 50-year-old me off.
How naive and innocent you are, old 50-year-old man.
So, with us having sort of like finished our Arkham experience, it just seemed a good idea to just drag this thing out and let's give it some Gwelly. Because the other thing is, you can't play it with just one character, so it's never something I'm going to sit and play true solo, because I hate running multiple characters as a single player.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you've got 2 hands of cards.
I need my sanding pad.
It's like, no.
Oh, regrets.
You'll have to let us know, Dan, how it goes at club, how you enjoy it, mate. Warning, it's quite a hard game.
You're kidding me. It's ridiculously hard.
There is... Oh, mate. That's a bit noisy. What are you doing, sanding?
I may mute myself from time to time.
Okay.
But, shall we talk about what we got up to at club?
Well, yeah. I haven't got any
Should
pictures.
I go first so I can then just be truly the fucking salt troll that I am after?
Possibly.
Because then it will feed into the news and then we'll all be happy and this looks like it's a scripted program.
Did you post any photos?
Did I? Fuck.
Okay. So you can just freeform it, because I don't think if you didn't post any photos to Facebook or Discord, I've got nothing to show folks, have I?
No. So, play some Armada. I got the new book at UK Games Expo. We've been over this already. But there's rules for multiplayer. And we said, fuck it. Let's teach Ricky how to play. And we'll drag Luke in, who's had a game as well. So we had Luke and Ricky as allies of convenience versus me. Playing our usual kill the shit out of everything intro scenario. I was playing dwarves and took 150 points, or just slightly under 150 points. Both the lads, Luke and Ricky, took the starter fleets, four minis per side. You've seen it all before. And they're about 100 points each when the stick upgrades on them. So it's 150 points on the experienced captain versus 200 points on the allies of convenience. Dwarves are broken. Dwarves are so broken. 75 hull points on a main battleship. And by the end of the game, and even both of them trying to kick the shit out of it, it's taken about 15. It's ridiculously survivable. The other stuff, the support ships, they're not so survivable. So I will give them that. However, the Dwarven captain won the day because the Dwarven captain started sinking things, and then the Basilian captain decided to start hitting his own boats and sink his own boats, saving me a job.
Okay.
Take from that what you will.
To be fair, though, that was Ricky. Who was Basilean's? Ricky?
Yes,
Ricky
was
his first game. Let's be fair.
To be fair, he made it through a good 5 turns without hitting himself.
That's not bad.
And then an area of the board just turned into a car park, and there was about 4 ships in very close spacing with one another, and they all just ended up misjudging and fucking hitting one another. It was a bit of a nightmare. Thank you for that compliment, Darren.
Well, what's this?
The Chaos God of Salt.
Oh dear.
Yeah, pretty much cheese me teaching my friends how to sink their own ships.
God.
Luke's called shotgun on the Chaos Dwarves that are coming out that were teased in the new book. I don't know if people have seen that. Ricky, on the other hand, we're currently trying to convince to do a thing, aren't we, Ginge? And he's probably going to be collecting a pirate fleet.
Ricky's one of those guys at our club who just plows through the hobby so fast.
Well, bear in mind, I think I bought him 5 or 6 miniatures at UK Games Expo. They were done in the space of 2 days. Yeah.
And he literally, he's the one guy that I know that has no pile of shame. Everything, pirates. I think pirates is a great fit for Ricky, because the fact that everything's a little bit different, he's not.
Yeah, and you can take what you want and pack what you want, kind of thing.
He's his cookie made of salt. Nah. Is that the sodium part of chloride? In joke, scientist.
No. Cookie is like the salt licks you give to goats. That's what I am. I'm just basically I'm a disposable salt lick.
Oh, cheese me's just solved your problem. Look, let Ricky paint your Assassin's Creed.
No, rocking backwards and forwards Vietnam flashback noises. But yeah, it was a good
idea.
It was a good game. Ricky enjoyed it. Luke enjoyed it even more. I've said to Ricky about demoing a pirate fleet and a ghost fleet, because they're basically the 2 options that are spicy for him at the moment. Crispin's here. Crispin, did I hear you were part of the STL crew for Mantic? If so, opinions now in chat if you've been printing.
What do you mean? Somebody who actually bought some Mantic STLs?
Yes. I don't like these resin barrels, Paul.
What are? Where do you? Where? What do you mean? Where? What?
I've got resin barrels from Legend Games from Games Expo, and
Okay.
my God, the sinking on the bottom with this resin is horribly egregious.
So where?
Hence why I'm having to sand them.
Legend Games.
Legend Games.
Where did you buy them?
Stand opposite the Margrove stand. Not helpful to anyone that wasn't there.
Okay, I didn't even realise you'd popped it in there. Well, they weren't the guys doing the MDF stuff. That was somebody else, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was somebody else.
Yeah.
No, these were the ones that had the stand with everything on, then a bit of a man gap, and then all of the racking, and it was like 5 for 25. Do you remember? Because we sat for ages and we were looking through like all the sacrificial altars and everything, and just good scatter. And they had all the really nice gravestones.
Vaguely, yes.
Yes, you remember now.
But it's not very good quality stuff, no.
The quality on the casting itself is amazing. The resin itself is a bit gluey and shrinks back a little. Let's go down to my desk. Oh shit! I've just broken my camera again. We'll hold this a minute.
I apologise if the audio goes weird. What are they called, mate? Legend
Games.
Google go.
And then just come down to my desk cam.
High quality terrain,
it's a bit glossy,
dungeon scenery.
But you'll see it there.
Okay.
Look at that for a sync mark.
Hang on. We want to turn that off. There you go. You're on camera now, mate. Oh, Christ, yeah.
And that's had stuff cut off it. We'll go to one of the barrels.
That's the bottom. Why do you give a shit?
Because I don't know. Maybe I wanted to stand on more than a razor's edge.
I mean...
Sorry if I'm making everyone motion sick, because my phone decided it didn't want to be attached to my mount anymore.
Yeah, I get maybe the barrels, because you might want to put them on their side. Maybe?
Probably not, because there's no detail on the bottom.
Well, it doesn't fucking matter then. Why are you whining? Honestly, I don't get the problem. Unless they're not level. Are they also not level?
They're not level!
Oh, okay.
They're full of sync marks are not level. Let me put you down a second. Just stop internet. Stop internet. Oh my God.
Oh, what was that?
Jesus Christ. This is the only flat one.
Hang on. Right, okay. Turn it over.
It's huge.
That is cool, though.
It is cool because, again, this one has a removable lid.
Okay, does the lid fit quite well? Is it... Oh, yeah, that looks pretty good, mate. Some of that stuff is pretty good. That is cool. That's interesting, though.
Again, flashing.
But
I know it's thin stuff, but it's just annoying.
That'll just scrape off easily, won't it?
Yeah, but it's just the... Again, I don't mind scraping off little nice bits, but when it's fucking... I mean, you can tell how not flat that is.
Yeah, but again, what the hell? You're never gonna... I mean, I guess... But... I don't know. I think you're making too much of it, frankly.
Just... Yeah.
What? Just what?
Barrels want to roll. Right, would you like to go away from my camera so I can fix it?
I've done it.
Because people on the internet will be getting motion sick and they will be having to take seasickness tablets.
Legend Games. Resin scenery, figure bases, basic material, SCL files. So how much did you spend altogether?
25 quid.
Okay. They've got empty open barrels. These barrels are quite nice, actually.
We said that on the fucking stand.
Okay.
Dealing with you is like dealing with an echo.
See how they paint up. They
will probably paint up beautifully, and I'm probably sat here bitching for no reason.
Ooh.
But it wouldn't be David without being salty.
I normally get my bases from Sally Forth, but they do bases here, MDF and plastic. So I might check to see how they are for price. Oh God! Right. Yeah, I suppose that's true, Darren. Darren makes a fair point. Like, if you want to glue them to a base, you want maximum contact, particularly as it's super glue resin, isn't it? You can't use plastic glues. So...
No, precisely my point.
But to be fair, that's going to be awkward with the barrels, because if you lose too much off the bottom of the barrels, is the banding then going to be asymmetric, too close to the bottom?
It shouldn't be, because I'm an engineer, and let me just remove the dust from my sanding pad. I made myself one of these many years ago. Basically, it's a piece of plastic with some sandpaper glued to it.
Right.
And it just allows me to flatten things nice and flat.
Yeah, but how does that stop you if you take material off the bottom of the barrel?
Because by moving things in a figure of 8 across it, you apply an even pressure and you remove material evenly.
What, from the top and the bottoms at the same time?
Well, from the bottom, because I'm only sanding the bottom.
When you get a barrel, you have horizontal steel bands that grip the barrel panels, and they're placed roughly equidistant from the ends. But if you file one end down...
I have a solution to this problem.
Okay.
Little 40mm Sally Forth bases, put them on, put texture, i.e. snow, mud.
Okay, make them look buried. Well, couldn't you do that without cutting all the crap off?
Yes, but glue... Oh, for fuck's sake, we've been through the gluing surface area. Oh my god, I'm not a fucking... Give up! My fucking co-host, boys and girls.
Trigger! So you did Armada, and Ricky enjoyed it, he's buying in, and it was Luke's second game, so game went well.
Yes, it did.
See, Orinoco knows. Just.
Oh no! Not pins! Not pins! Not pins! Not pins!
So, what did I do at club? I'll tell you what I did at club. I played my first game of 10th edition Warhammer 40,000.
You loved every second of it, didn't you? Like every GW product you've ever played.
It was Limburgers. Look at this.
Orinoco, I am not rising to that comment.
Oh dear, Jesus, you guys are on form tonight. Do you know what? So I played Dan, who's in the chat tonight, and I couldn't have wished for a better opponent. It was an absolute pleasure to play with Dan. It's just fine, you know. It's fine. That's the best way I can put it. We played 1,000 points. It took us 3 and a bit hours to do 3 turns for our first game. Dan played Death Guard. I played my Necrons because that's the army I know the best, and if I want to try something new, they're the army that I can probably play the quickest. I did do about 4 to 6 hours of prep, reading the rules, print it. Oh, don't, Limburger, mate. Yes, it's called the Munitorum something or other. If you go on Warhammer Community, there is a document which has all of the points for 10th edition. All of the index cards that have been released are in it with points values. It's, if you already enjoy 40k, if you like what 40k is, which is a little bit overblown, a little bit
that's a fucking understatement,
a little bit too much of everything, you'll enjoy 10th. It's not as, I think it's friendlier than 9th, simply the lack of the stratagems and the way that they've restructured command points is enough to make the game less tiresome to a new player. I mean, Dan, I'm not the kind of guy who obsesses about what my opponent's army does. I sort of trust them to know their own rules and do their own thing. And if they say something happens, then that's fine. That's what happens. I have enough trouble with 40k getting my own army rules right without playing their army as well. So, in 40k currently, you get 3 stratagems for your main faction. You get 3 stratagems for your associated detachment or sub-faction or whatever list building archetype. And then there are about 7 stratagems in the core rulebook. So that's 13, something like that. And that's it. So the number of active stratagems for some factions has been reduced by a factor of 10. And you generate command points, 1 in each player's command phase. So you generate 2 command points per game round, game turn, whatever you describe it, on each army. So it's much more restrictive in terms of that game element. That helps massively. By the end of 3 turns, I had literally about half a dozen dead models. So I do have concerns about the balance and how, you know, for example, is Necron reanimation broken or too damn good? It just seemed to me that Dan just couldn't kill anything. And if he did kill it, it didn't stay dead for very long. And that seemed that could very quickly become a negative play experience for my opponent as somebody who plays Necrons.
I mean,
it's one game. Let's not, like my father used to say, don't limp before you've been kicked. It's only one game against one opponent and one army with one set of models, but first impressions, it did seem a bit strong. I do...
Again, you did say that there's some resilience, though, in it, because to kill Typhus and his associated poxwalkers, you did have to commit 4 units to the fray.
Yeah, that's a very good point. One of the things that I absolutely detested about 9th edition was the level of damage output that could be engineered from the game system it was literally you could point and shoot, remove a table, remove a gaming element, remove an entire unit from the table, point and shoot, take them away, point and shoot, take them away. And that was such an excessive, overbearing thing. We did actually do a live stream about whether war games should be that killy, you know, whether you should be able to destroy your opponent's game elements with quite that much ease. And one thing I would say is that 9th edition very much seems to have stepped back from that brink. I've seen a lot of internet coverage that David and I probably won't be going into because we're not those sort of guys.
No, we just don't like GW.
There is a lot of internet coverage, people sort of spotting combos where they can spam huge amounts of damage and destroy big units, etc. in one hit. So I think it's potentially a problem, but playing it as Dan and I played it, which is without engineering our lists, without trying to be those guys who research the most broken shit, I did, like David says, I did remove Dan's general leader, Typhus, with his Poxwalker retinue, but I literally had to throw 4 full units worth of shooting at it in a single phase. I basically had to put nearly 50% of my army's attacks into it to get rid of it. So, you know, I think if that's another thing that's gone from 10th edition, then that's great.
Can can I just say my 2 cents?
Yeah, go on, mate. I mean, you didn't play, but share.
No,
share
I didn't play, but again, I'm just picking up on a few things you've said. Like, obviously, everything's less killy. It took you about the usual time to do 3 turns. Again, new edition is what it is. But again, it's shit that should be being moved away from and easier with the new edition that they're just not fixing. Like, you mentioned it, or we both mentioned it, drop a Hellfire round stratagem. We'll patch that 24 hours later because it's a bit fucking broken. So 15th it dropped, 16th it was patched.
I can actually bring that up for everybody because let's go to here.
Second thing.
So what David's talking about is this was one of those balance things that I said had come to light. Basically, Hellfire rounds, which I think was a stratagem for Death Guard. No, not Death Guard. Death Watch.
Stern Guard.
Death Watch.
Yep.
The Space
Maybe.
Marines. The black guys that are made up of all the other chapters. They have this stupid stratagem called the Hellfire rounds, which means that they were able to spam out 40 odd mortal wounds for 1 command point, and because mortal wounds spill over model to model, it was like quite capable of destroying a massive point sink unit in a single sort of attack, if you like. So obviously this has now been nerfed so that it doesn't interact with the devastating wounds rule, and that you can't use Hellfire rounds on any weapon that has devastating wounds, just to try and stop it. I saw a video earlier on YouTube that there's been some stuff in Reddit about certain TOs are not willing to. They're coming up with house rules already for some of the indexes like Eldar, because they've got the capacity to just do utterly broken things.
And then the next thing, I know Dan, and this is not a criticism of you, Dan, because you built your models for 9th. But when you build a model set for 9th and you can put 5 different weapons in it, and you can still put 5 different weapons in it in fucking 10th edition, and as a consequence, I know it's a new edition and you're getting used to stuff, but you've got to refer to 5 different weapon profiles to do anything in the shooting phase. What the fuck? I thought we were moving away from this.
Well, I mean, I hadn't heard anything about us moving away from this, but having played against
I thought it was pitched as it's meant to be simpler.
Well,
How is having 5 different fucking weapons profiles in a unit that you can legally outfit? It's not even here's 5 weapons profiles, pick 2. It's here's 5 weapon profiles, use them fucking all.
I'm going to apologise to Dan because I don't know the names of all of these weapons, but one of the questions I would have for the design team is, in terms solely of game mechanics, not saying lore, I can totally understand from a lore point of view where you want to say, oh, we've got these Nurgle Marines, let's come up with a load of cool weapon profiles that only they can use, like things that spew diseasey bile and stuff. Totally get it. But from a game design point of view, what are you pitching for when you allow a unit of 10 men to take a whole smorgasbord of different shooting weapons with vastly different profiles? What are you going for in terms of your game design? Or are you just giving it, which is I suspect the case, are you giving it absolutely no thought whatsoever? Which I think is why they've ended up in these situations. Because, frankly, It's annoying to play against. I could see it was frustrating the cock shit out of Dan. And I don't see the purpose. Yeah, I installed it, Darren, and had a play, and then I uninstalled it because I know it's not going to be free going forward, so it's not something I want to fall in love with because I'm not paying them £10 a month to use it, frankly. Yeah.
Only 10 of your great British pounds a month?
So, I've played 10th. Is it the worst game in the world I've ever played? No. Is it basically still just 40k with all of 40k's attendant issues? Yes, it is. If you enjoy, if you just enjoy, like Dan and I basically spent 3 hours together enjoying each other's company, pushing some models around, rolling some dice without any real idea of what was going to happen. And it was fine. If you're looking for a super rewarding, tight, competitive gaming experience, no, you're in the wrong zone, I'm afraid.
Leave your shit at the door.
I will, however, say this. I'm going to come to your point in a minute, Darren. I will, however, say this. After 3.5 hours, or whatever the fucking ridiculous time it was, we were on a 3-all draw. Because no more... There was really... The game revolved solely around the objectives. And Dan played a very good objective control game. And he kept me from getting a good lead through clever use of his Rhino, dedicated transport, to stall out one of the objectives, because I didn't have the capacity to get it off. And then it meant neither of us could score the objective easily. Again, just by charging it into a close combat that he knew he couldn't win, but he would take me ages to push him to win myself, was a brilliant piece of play. So he played very smart, and it ended up a 3-all draw. So it is potentially the case that the mission structures, because all the primaries and secondaries of 9ths have gone this, getting to 100 points by scoring 15 here and 12 off that, and you can only do 10 per turn off this, or whatever the fuck it was. All of that's gone. For the starter mission, at least, it's you place 4 objectives, you get 1 VP for controlling it each turn after the first. Maximum you can get is 3, so if you control all 4, you still only score 3, and most VPs at the end of the game is the winner. And there is still a win condition that I wish they would take out of their fucking game. If you table your opponent, you still win. So it is still a valid strategy to go for the Alpha Strike tabling. Which, please, for the love of sweet Jesus, take that out of your game. Why have it there? Please, God.
Because it's always been there, though.
You know.
Darren's made a good point here. OPR puts it to shame. Yes, it does,
Darren. It does. And again, to echo what Darren's saying, 10th edition was fine. It will not encourage me, from what I've seen so far, to go out and buy a ton more GW models. I have loads, thank you very much. And if somebody asked me to play 10th and they were a friend and I was going to help them out and wanted to, be their mate, I would play it. But if I would never say, shall we play 10th? I would say, shall we play Grimdark Future? I fancy using my GW models. Because I enjoyed that way more. Way more.
It's not ideal.
I mean, it's only early days. It's only been
Moonstone minis. Ugh.
It's only been out 5 minutes. there's a lot that can happen. But I mean, the one thing I will say is that the again, right? It's got a free rule book, which is, I believe, a 60 page PDF. Okay?
And is not optimized to load quickly.
And in addition to that, I would strongly advise everybody probably needs to read the game designer's commentary that's been issued as well, which I think is another probably 10 to 12 page PDF. And it might even be longer than that. But that is essential reading because it covers some of the basic stuff like what do you do when you're rounding down whole numbers to halves? Do you round up or down by default? That's missing from the core rules. And there are some data sheets where they've also failed to cover that eventuality. So they had to bring out a game designer's commentary to plug some of these gaps.
For fuck's sake. I'm glad I didn't get involved, and I'm glad I have no intentions of getting involved.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's what you guys are picking up. It's like, if you even need the game designer's commentary to be released within a week of your core rule set, somebody should be being sacked. Okay, from a company, for the company the size of Games Workshop, if it's a mom and pop store, mom and pop gaming company, there's only 3 employees, you drop the fucking ball, you release something half finished, you have to patch it and fix it, you're not going to sack anyone because there's only 3 of you. Games Workshop need to find whoever was responsible for this, and there needs to be an explanation of why a company with this sort of resource produces something so fucking ropey as this.
I would like to hard counter with, it's designed by committee, and because it's designed by committee, it's a car crash.
A lot of the guys at the club have sort of pointed their finger at the devil in the room that might be resources. That, like, the miniature design team, sculptors, the blokes who engineer the bloody the things that you press the plastic molds out of.
Injection molders.
Injection molds. Those people probably get all the resources in the world. Graphic designers. I think there are probably 2 or 3 massively overworked individuals who've basically been sweatshopped into rebuilding the entire edition and every faction from scratch. We're on a shoestring, is what I suspect. That is the most generous I can be. That simply the people who've done it have been so starved of support and resource that doing a good and thorough job was utterly beyond them. Yeah, and that's it. That's it, Dan. And that is exactly, the people who sit at the top table will be like, look, just make the game good enough so that people can find something to do with these models that we want them to buy. That's it. Don't do any more than that. If you do more than that, you're trying too hard.
Yeah. Put your try hard t-shirt down.
And I think that's probably right. So, I probably don't need to ask whether anybody else in our audience has tried 10th edition, because I don't think you guys are probably a bit like us. It's not really on your radar. Out of interest, just a straw poll, anybody planning to try it or actually excited to play it? Yeah. I'll be honest. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. Limburgers have given it a look and has said, no, not for me. I suspect that they've been designing 10th edition for 24 months minimum. I would suspect, but I don't know. I can't know. It's all just supposition, isn't it?
True. I do like how clean these Moonstone minis are.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah, I know that you'd definitely give it another go, Dan, because obviously you love the lore, you love the world, and to be fair, Games Workshop know that they're
not dumb.
They know who their game is being marketed at. Their game is being marketed at people who love the whole Warhammer experience. That's who they want to play their game. People who are totally invested, almost to the point of obsession. You know, that's what they want, which is fair. At least they know what they want. That's never a bad thing in business, to understand who your customers are, or who you want them to be. He has his sword
somewhere over there.
Darren's going to play it, but only because he can't convince his playgroup to not. Yeah.
Yeah, Darren's mentioned No, Darren, it's not just Moonstone. It's the double award-winning Moonstone.
Multi-award-winning.
We'll have you know.
Yeah, Jerry would be correcting you if he was here, mate.
We've got to do Jerry's job soon as he's not here.
Yeah.
Is Tim interneting, or is Tim just fallen into a hot hole in the middle of Germany?
And out of the dark loomed a wild Jerry. I suspect Tim is gaming. Most of the time he's been away, he's been finding games to play. And you know what? Can't knock him for that. Good man. He might be doing some more Battletech. It's a definitely valid excuse for not being here. You haven't said, Jerry, are you hobbying on anything? Stick in the chat what you're working on. Probably some historical stuff, or... Yeah. Beetlejuice. It's like, Moonstone. Ah! I like it. That's very good.
To be fair, I'm currently working on some Moonstone.
Well, being salty and fucking ripping the piss out of
GW lasted a while.
Games Workshop, that filled some time nicely because it's brought us round almost to our always on Night Stalkers. You're doing a full-on army, Jerry, I'm assuming.
Oh, is that
Kings of War? He wouldn't be doing a small project. Jerry would only be doing a massive project. Or are these for the studio? Are these personal? Personal, I hope. Shouldn't be working when we're supposed to be enjoying leisure time. Yeah. So what are you lost now? Fucking hell.
Activator. How could you tell?
Almighty.
How could you tell that I had lost things?
So Darren was trying to have a conversation with you about how awesome these minis are. So he's working on Null at the minute.
There's hang on a second, right?
Do you want to go to your...
I didn't realise Peggy had quite as much detail as she does. I'm just going to go down to my...
I'm ready if you want to go to
you fucking internet piece of shit.
Oh, dear. Welcome
Shut
to...
the phone for more than 30 seconds. Oh, you can't join that part of the chat anymore, you fucking bellend. Okay, fine, whatever.
Welcome to all of our sensitive and cultured viewers to the Yellow Top Table. What was that?
What is sensitive and cultured about the Yellow Belly Tabletop channel?
Well, obviously your profanity, not.
I've just broken my fucking phone stand again. Okay, fuck this shit. Fuck this noise.
Oh, guys,
Right.
you can see the professionalism just gets better on this show. Right, go
It's
on.
almost technical difficulties level. Her peg leg. I know it's a bit overexposed. Let me just
Are they
turn
slotters? For my shame, haven't
Yes,
even
they're
opened
slotters. I'm
any
not
of
a
mine.
fan of slotters.
Okay, that's fine.
Look at her peg leg and the detail on her peg leg.
Yeah, you say that you're not a fan of slotters, but it's a good way to support a delicate moulding like that.
Yes, it is. But, yeah, that's what we're at.
That sword looks pretty straight as well.
They're really good. The powder monkey, I'm amazed. I didn't have any assembly to do.
Not even any sort of flash or anything.
There was flash to come off.
Oh, okay.
Let's give credit where credit's due. There was flash to come off.
But it's just a
no
one
assembly.
piece.
And then here's Bristlenose.
How is the resin for hardness, flexibility, durability?
Let's go to a piece I prepared earlier.
Tell you what, mate,
It's actually quite good. It's not snapping, and that's quite a lot of force behind that. I mean, I've bent it, but
yeah, but what's that? One of the
through.
That's one of the gates. Yeah, one of the frames.
It's not terrible. It's a bit springy, but
it's
again,
springy, not fragile.
Tiny fucking rapier here.
I was looking at that because those sort of things on resins and no bubbles, no blisters.
No bubbles, no blisters. Very nice sprue sets.
I'll be honest, as somebody who I would say resin is probably my least favourite miniature medium.
I would, however, like to talk about the elephant in the room with this multi-award-winning Moonstone.
Oh, now you go steady here, mate.
I have noticed Bristlenose has some layer lines on his wheelbarrow.
Ooh. Does that mean the Masters would have been 3D printed then, David?
It does mean the Masters would have been 3D printed, my friend. And there's some on the hand here as well.
God,
don't know if that's coming out.
Your camera is spazzing out. Be glad when you get your stand fixed.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go fix my stand. So, away from the camera.
Away we go. Away she goes.
Away with ye.
Get away.
Get away. You're screwed.
Okay. So Darren said he did have a little bit of a whoopsident. He broke one of Noel's twigs, which presumably is like a protruding
that doesn't bode
detail.
well for you, does it?
Yeah. How do you think they'll be for storage, Darren? Is Noel a bit of a fragile model then?
I mean, he's a fucking barrel, isn't he?
What are you doing, mate? Are you going to be magnetising yours into a really useful box? You use your magnetisation system.
Along with my Carnivale and other shit.
Right, fair. Yes, it is. It's 9 o'clock. It's time for the topic of the week. Look, the audience are chasing us on. Right. So, UK Games Expo. What should we talk about first, mate? Should we talk about Zeo?
Let's go with Zeo.
Yeah, okay. So, this is the one I don't have the video for, but I do have a few stills of the very pretty mech miniatures. So just bear with me a second. So, at UK Games Expo this year, there was a game called ZeoGenesis. I will actually bring up the web page in a minute as well. Excuse me, where are the pictures of the mechs?
Not here.
Yes, that is indeed the case. Just bear with me a second.
Man is observant.
Oh, I see why. Okay. Huh?
Peggy's arm, where are you going? Ugh.
Just bear with me.
I use foam storage. Darren, you heathen.
You've got some foam trays to do your...
Yeah, to throw all of my soft PVC Mantic shit in that I give zero fucks about, aka League of Infamy.
Right. So, there's a game called ZeoGenesis. It is a small scale, as in size of game, not size of
skirmish
model.
level would be the better way of describing it than small scale.
I don't like using... For everybody who knows, I don't like using... Whoops. I've just realised that is not correctly sized. Just bear with me a second. I don't
the fact that you can see a little bit at the bottom of our screens.
Yeah, I don't like using the skirmish word, because in a military context, skirmishing means something very specific. I like to describe it as a small scale game, as in you have very few game assets. That is my preferred way. That's better. It's a bit stretched, but at least it's not obliterating half of the screen, which it was before. Looking a little bit crap. So...
Not technically a technical difficulty.
Yes.
Just saying.
Look at this. Orinoco is on the case. This is indeed Andy Chambers and Gav Thorpe. And when the guy mentioned... When he dropped their names at the show, I was like, really? Then some pretty big names to be chucking around, sir. But yeah, so...
That has some gravitas.
It does. Basically, you have big mech models, and little support models that go with your mechs. I think they described a game is typically 2 or 3 of the large mechs, and then around half a dozen of the support models, which are like infantry dudes in armor, or you can get like little drones, think like Tau drones, little robots.
Little drone controller units and
that sort of thing. So you've got 2 tiers of units in your army, around 5 to 10 miniatures per side, plays on a sort of 3 foot by 3 foot play zone, and it's, I mean, this appealed. This caught your eye, didn't it, mate?
This was. Oh, look, pretty mechs. I'm going over here.
Because,
they're running demo games. Oh, we're trying this.
As everybody knows, I'm not probably the best guy to talk about a mech game. I don't really get the aesthetic and the sort
What's
of like,
not like to like about
thing.
big sci-fi smashy robots, Paul?
I don't really get it. Let me just share.
There's a lot of things you don't get though.
So in terms of the game, it's a fairly by the numbers skirmish game, I would say. It's each individual model has a certain number of activation tokens. So the big mechs might have 2 or 3. The little infantry guys get 1. And it's alternating activation. So you can take an activation with one of your models that has an unspent activation token, and then your opponent does the same, and then play bounces back and forth.
There are ways around that.
Well,
so for example, a team leader can also activate another model within a certain aura range.
Yes.
The other really nice thing about your action points, or your system, whatever they were calling it, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, is you can use them as reactions. So if somebody declares a shooting attack against you,
you
can then use a reaction to say, oh, well, I'm going to spray them back. Or actually, I'm going to duck out of cover and duck out into cover.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Yes, so you can use unspent actions in a reactionary way, like David says. And again, what was the die? It was D10, wasn't it?
Yes, it was D10.
So it's a D10 base system. Each of your miniatures has like a profile card with all of their stats
and
laid
what
out
target
on it.
number is and everything else.
Without getting too much into the weeds, because obviously a lot of our audience, you guys have played a ton of miniature war games. There's very little about this game that's revolutionary. If I was to take two things that were, well, maybe even just one thing, unless David can think of another. One thing about this game that is like its unique selling point is that one thing they've gone with this game is that player turns are asynchronous or can be asynchronous. And what I mean by that is, if, say, for example, you've ever played a game like Malifaux, which is alternating activation model by model, if a player has more models than the other player gets a number of pass tokens so that they always get the same number of activations each in a full turn. And the player with the pass tokens can take an action to pass play back, but it still counts as one of their activations, if you like. So you always get perfect symmetry in the turns. Another example might be like a game of Firefight. If you have more units than your opponent, at some point you'll just keep going and activating the units, and your opponent will stand there and watch you because they've done all of theirs. But ultimately, when everything is activated once, the turn ends. This is the classic dynamic of a war game that all of us are used to. This is the way it works for alternating activations most commonly. What ZeoGenesis does is, the only parallel I can think of at the moment in my head is nothing to do with the war game, but it's actually the board game Everdell. What ZeoGenesis does is, at the point you've exhausted all of your order or activation tokens, the only action that you can do is a refresh action, which does a couple of things. It might trigger certain statuses on your model, clean things up, clean things up. But what it then does is reinstates all of your activation tokens. Now, because you might have a different number of activations, or you might spend them differently, so you might spend activations on reactions, so run out quicker. This off turn, this reset reactivation turn, will not occur simultaneously for both players. You can end up with a situation where player A goes into reset and effectively has a dead turn, and the other player can exploit momentum because they don't need to reset yet. And if I was, it's about it's the only thing that I picked out straight away as we were doing the playthrough. I thought, this is a neat take. This is an interesting idea.
And you score in them reset turns.
Right, I'd forgotten that, but David obviously remembers. So obviously, again, if your scoring opportunities are keyed into that adds another layer of strategy to when do I want to hit my reset. Can you think of a miniatures game that does things...
my comment to you was, say you'll get in your ass handed to you, actually gives you more scoring opportunities.
Yeah, because you get to the reset turns quicker.
quicker.
That's interesting.
And it allows you to gain momentum over your opponent, who, okay, is maybe doing well, but actually doesn't end up scoring that well.
That's, yeah, because you're resetting. It's interesting.
It's different.
Yeah. To be a little bit, to be fair-handed, the demo game wasn't particularly great. If we compare the demo games we had last week, like
Ironclad and
Margrave, the execution of the demonstration play was pretty much flawless.
Yeah.
I want to say. They were well thought out, they were well executed, and they went well. With this, to give you an example, one of the factions in the playtest, you can get like these critical hit effects on your weapons.
So basically, when you're rolling your d10s, you roll 4 d10s looking for your target value number.
Yeah.
You then roll a d10 that's a different colour as your critical dice. Depending upon the result on your critical dice is what happens.
So it sort of like steers the whole impact of the effect. And one faction had I'll boil it down to the word morale type effect on its opponent. But because they decided that they were leaving that whole element of morale out of the playtest, which will leave that open as to whether that was a good idea to leave it out of the playtest, that meant that there was immediately an imbalance because one playing faction got their exploding damage effect and the other faction didn't get their effect. So it was like, well, again, you haven't really thought about this.
We weren't playing with critical dice, and then all of a sudden we started rolling critical dice as well, didn't we?
Well, that was, again, the bloke said initially, because we were playing the morale faction, because he, again, if you're doing a demonstration game and 2 people walk up to you, here's a thought, get them to play each other, you adjudicate. What happened was, the guy on the stand picked up the dice and played me, and left David holding his cock with his arms folded for 40 minutes. So, just a tip, don't do demo games like that. That's bad form, and you can do it better. Another thing that is interesting, and I think is worth mentioning, the eagle-eyed amongst you, you would have been able to tell better in the videos, but the eagle-eyed amongst you might recognise that terrain in the back there. Now that terrain is the Acid House cardboard fold-out terrain that they did from their Kickstarter about 18 months or 2 years ago. Yeah, Acid House, Darren. Yep, Infinity. Now, I think the plan is that the guys are going to collaborate with Acid House, and Acid House will be providing the terrain for the 2-player starter set.
In box.
Which, having used and reviewed that Acid House terrain, I think that's a real plus, because that's good terrain. That I would highly recommend the Acid House stuff. Thanks, Darren. I'm sure... Did you take your travel sickness tablets first? Because it's a bit shaky, and I do apologise for that. So, I did take some notes. They are going straight to retail. If they do a Kickstarter campaign, it will solely be for product awareness purposes. But their plans are to go to retail Q4 2023. The initial launch will be a 2-player starter box with 2 separate factions, roughly 120 quid, give or take. Obviously, this far out, you can't rubber stamp concrete prices, but the guys gave us an idea based on what they were expecting. And they've already got 6 months of additional model releases and I think
content.
another faction. But they've certainly
Yeah,
got...
there's another faction that they will be announcing just post Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I think they've got basically they've got 6 months of retail releases planned to support the initial launch. Following on from that, I think the models beautiful. I mean, again, I don't do the mech aesthetic particularly, but I'd have been pleased to collect and paint any of these miniatures.
Tell you another thing I did like about this game was how dynamic the movement is. So when you take like a move and shoot action, I can't remember what it was called, you get to move twice and shoot. Now whether you move and then shoot, or shoot and move, or move, shoot, move, doesn't matter.
Yep, that's quite cool.
Very fluid.
Yep.
Similarly, you can say, oh, well, I'm going to jump up on the rooftop, shoot you from the rooftop, and then I'm going to dive back down behind cover so I don't get shot at.
Yes. That was because the game, frankly, seemed quite lethal. That ability to almost Infinity style move out, shoot, move back into cover seemed a really good design feature for this style of game. To be fair, there are a ton of things that we didn't really explore in the demo game. One of the things that they, to be fair, I'm not sure on that Orinoco. Gamma Wolves. I have seen a bit of the Gamma Wolves stuff on Ash Barker's channel, Jerry, but nothing recently. David very, very, very much wants to try Gamma Wolves.
I do. I'm a little bit hyped for it, but
have you played it? Does it? Are you mentioning because Gamma Wolves has got a very similar feel in terms of gameplay, or are you just mentioning it because it's a bloody good mech-based game? I personally enjoyed Bot Wars. David didn't. David this side didn't.
Bot Wars is not my jam. I'm not an 80s kid.
Okay, so it's that. Do you know what? That makes perfect sense because obviously Ash absolutely loves Infinity. So for him to completely lift that blended action of movement and shooting, or movement and combat, makes perfect sense for Gamma Wolves. That's interesting. So in answer to your question, Orinoco, I don't know. I don't remember David asking the question. I do remember them saying all of the stuff is going to be manufactured in America.
No. It's not Cycast. They're going injection molded plastics. Okay. Hard injection molded plastics.
There you go. David remembered. David was paying attention to all the engineering stuff. And they did say they were making it. They've got manufacturing facility in California. Did they say America?
No, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I think it was.
Someplace beginning with C. So yeah.
Narrows it down a little bit.
Do you have anything to say as you are the flag waver for the mech-based game here, mate?
I enjoyed it. What little I could see of it, because again, don't forget, I didn't play it.
No, that's true.
The minis are gorgeous. The movement's really cool. The other nice thing is, like, in their scenarios, they're building in. Oh well, it's only so many. What's it called? So many regroupings before it kicks off. Like, kicks the end of the scenario into gear.
Okay, so the reset turns. I can't remember the terminology. Yeah. I wish I'd rendered my video. That would have been so professional. So basically, if they tick over quickly, the losing player will end the game.
If one player is turning over quickly and is therefore scoring quickly, but they're getting their ass handed to them miniatures wise, they're going to win the game.
That sounds interesting. It sounds like it could be interesting but broken. but I guess you've got to see how it plays. Our demo, again, how to do and not do a demo. There were so many things about our demo that I don't think it fully... Please see our previous video on Hobgoblin. I don't think the demo that we were offered on this game gave us the full potential of what the game could be.
No, because again, not once was melee mentioned until after the game had finished and concluded, and then we looked at the bottom of the scorecard and, oh look, there's a melee profile.
The bottom of the mech
and I should have been engaging that dickhead in melee.
Again, if the person that you're teaching the game appears to have missed the fact that their mech's best attack is the melee attack at the base of the sheet, point it out to them. Because you've played before. They haven't. Anyway, another thing that they didn't touch upon in the demo game, but they did touch upon and were keen to tell everybody about, but didn't play it in the game, is that you sort of in the vein of Warhammer 40k terrain that you can buy for your army. You know, for your army, you can buy like a terrain piece.
This was not a fucking selling point. Fuck right off.
What you can do
Let's gamify placing terrain prior to playing the game.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about they have pieces of terrain that are interactable. And so you can place as part of your terrain placement a refueling station, a rearming station, etc., but they remain usable by both factions, which I thought was quite interesting. To come to David's point, which he was just about to salt the earth with, they also mentioned that the beginning of the game is placing terrain. So it's actually part of the game, which we don't really like, do we, David?
What? Divide the table into 9 equal segments of a third divided by a third, and then you're only allowed a piece of terrain in each, and what you say to your opponent is, oh, I'm going to place a medium, and that's worth so many points, and then your opponent goes, oh, well, actually, I'm going to place a large in this quadrant, and then we've got some smalls to place as well, and fuck off. Fuck off. If the table looks good, the table looks good. Get gone, foul demon.
They tried... I forgot. I apologise, I've forgotten his name. But the chap who was doing as the demo game was trying to sell us on the concept that this mini game of building the table before you actually play the game is an asset to competitive play. And like I was...
Oh, God, no. Somebody said a dirty word.
I'm not sure how that's going to work, mate. I think generally what you'll find is TOs would rather build tables to know that they're evenly balanced. To actually put table building in as a pre-game game, I can't... I'm sorry. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't see that's going to be hugely popular. I mean, really? No. Again, the table we played on was set up. All I've got to go on is how it was described for me and what the design intent was. And I'm not convinced.
That was the other thing that was a bit concerning for me. Because we asked them what was the recommended table size. And the stock answer we got, in a nice American twang, any surface will do. Yeah, how big? Like, is it 3x3? Is it 4x4? Is it 6x4? Oh, just whatever you've got to hand to play on. Well, no, because surely you've got an idea in mind based on the movement of your models, the shooting range of your models, everything else.
Yeah, you've got an optimal, given the number of miniatures you have, surely you've designed for an optimal play per space. Surely?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Anything else is gravy and a happy bonus. But, oh my God, it was just like that.
Orinoco, you've been playing too many GW games. 21 3/4 by 18
Cheese me,
and
head
7
meets
8.
desk. I mean, I would have met the desk, but it was covered in paper terrain, so it wouldn't have provided much impact.
I tell you what would have been refreshing if somebody had said to us in American 400 millimeters by 400 millimeters.
They don't know what millimeters are, though, do they?
What? Hiya, Ellen. Welcome to the chat.
I like the game. I enjoyed the game.
Yeah. Let's.
The miniatures were nice.
Let's take a step back. This is sounding like we're trashing this. I believe this actually might be quite a good game. The demo experience wasn't fantastic. The miniatures look great.
But for those interested, get your ass over to the ZeoGenesis website. Sign up for playtesting.
That is true. That is a great little thing, actually. If you go to the website, which I had up on screen earlier, let me screen, not scream. Where are we? Here we go.
Yes, Paul, you can operate the internet. Go gadget internet.
ZeoGenesis.com. Couldn't be easier. Name of the game.com. And then here you've got playtest. And you can basically sign up. And they'll send you presumably test rules for you to join the playtest group.
Yes.
Which sounds like a good proposition. We've done it. We've signed up. I think it's worth us trying it. David is very much in the market for a mech-based game, and I think you could enjoy it, mate.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yes, I would enjoy it.
And we can add it to the list with Gamma Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, we tried Botwell, didn't like it. I suppose the only other one to try is Battletech. Good old Battletech.
Well, Alpha Strike, is it? The sort of like...
I don't know. I don't
simplified,
care.
quick and easy version of Battletech. I don't think you and I would probably do full fat. I think I'd find full fat Battletech a little bit hard work.
Yeah, but you're hard work.
Don't be rude.
What scale are those bots compared to humans? They are about 32 millimeters.
Yes,
because they have humans embedded inside them.
Yeah, the smaller scale models that were attached, I think that David said, were 32 mil scale. So they're the human models. What would you say the mechs were, mate? Probably about 100 mil, 120 mil?
Yeah, about 4 inches tall.
Yeah, probably something like that.
About a 380 mil footprint. Or 60 mil footprint and an 80 mil footprint, because don't forget they did say that obviously there's 2 weights of mech, like a light mech and a medium.
Yeah, they did have some absolutely brutally big boys.
Brutally big boys.
So, yeah. So, that was ZeoGenesis. Check it out.
Now shall we come to the elephant in the room?
Let's come to David's Achilles heel, Bloodfields.
3D printing and time.
Okay, so Bloodfields is not a new game. How long has this been out, David? Jesus Christ, mate.
Bear with me. I'll go to Kickstarter and tell you when I'm back to the first fucker.
I shall tell you exactly when I spent all of my money on this. Okay, there we go.
Bloodfields. Complete 3D printable war game.
By Titan Forge, isn't it, sir?
Yes. 16th of January, 2020.
So this game's already 3 years old. And David's been threatening me with it for a long time.
So much so, last year at UK Games Expo, I bought some dice. Didn't get them out of the box or play with them or anything, but I bought some dice. Because it uses custom dice.
It does indeed. So, again, small scale miniatures, small skirmish scale game, about half a dozen miniatures aside, roughly. It's got like a weird fantasy feel. I have got some shots of the beautifully painted models in their display
From the
cabinets up on Titan Forge's stand. I did have a video of us playing the game, but of course I didn't render it. So, yay me!
Because animal.
So yes, if you can think of a weird aesthetic, they probably do a faction for it. You've got all sorts of oddballs.
Or have done it on Patreon.
Yeah.
Because some of the Patreon minis do come through to Bloodfields.
Do you even know how many factions and warbands there are for this game at the minute?
No, let's go to the internet.
I suspect it's a ridiculous amount of miniatures.
I know what your faction is.
I didn't ask that, did I? You'll subtly notice that the question I phrased was not that.
Bloodfields. Bloodfields by Titan Forge. Where is the list? Bloodfields.net. Rosters. Here we go. Select a realm. You have Blood Moon Bay, Caves of Corruption, Cursed Sands, Forgotten Empire, Legion of Death, Noble Alliance, Savage Tribes, and Steamforged City. And then inside, for example, Steamforged City, you have Dwarves, Tinkering Gnomes, Vampire Hunters,
okay,
and Mercenaries.
So that's about 10 header categories and 4 or 5 within each.
Yes.
Okay, so you're looking at
all of this is also free to view on Bloodfields.net. All of the cards and the roster builder is free to view on Bloodfields.net. You can either buy physical minis or you can buy the STLs from My Mini Factory. Take your pick.
Yeah, that's true, actually, because for grognardy non-printers like me, you can buy the miniatures pre-packed and pre-printed, which for me is like, oh, really? All of your other assets are still print and play, aren't they, mate? And you will need custom dice.
Yes, you will need the custom dice. That's probably the only thing you do want to buy, because I don't trust 3D printed dice as far as I can throw them, which is quite far.
Hey!
Because they tend to not be balanced.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust dice I'd printed. I know that for a fact.
Well, you don't print for starters. But yeah, there's a few different factions. While we just talk a little bit about our gameplay, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to the website and just pull up a random stat card and we can talk the people through it at home and about like a typical turn as well?
If I go to, quick roster?
Bloodfields.net and then, quick roster.
And then, which were the ones I played?
You played the Vampire Hunters, which are in the Steamforged City.
So this one. And then
down towards the bottom of the list, you played with... was it there? No.
I don't think it was these guys. Because I had the guy look like a...
Yes, it was Clara Nacht. You had her. She was the crossbow girl. And you had Ross Carpen, which is the girl with the massive axe across your shoulders.
Yeah, here we go. And this guy, who looked like some sort of weird Vatican reject. Yeah, this is what I had.
Vladimir Tintanau.
Yeah. So, here we got, let's do Clara. So here we got Clara Nacht. So, again, a lot of this is very much by the numbers stuff. Do you know what, mate? What can you think of a unique game element from this game? A unique mechanic?
So everything generated like them initiative points, didn't it? And then you divvied them up across your unit for buffing or debuffing or using on abilities?
Yeah, that's right. So you can see that some of these abilities here, on Clara Nacht, she's got... Am I actually sharing this? No, I'm not even sharing this. What an idiot. Right. Professional. Here we go. Right. Now everybody's looking at the same screen that Paul's looking at. That's a good idea, Paul. So, the Blessed Crossbow, Tumble, Divine Bolt, and Silent Night are her special abilities that she can use during her activations. Okay. I'm not sure I did have this one, you know. I definitely had Padre.
You definitely had Rod Carpen.
Hugo Brave. Anyway, let's stick with Clara. The point is, these numbers here, 0012, these are the number of special resources. I can't even remember the name of it. Like, special points that you can roll, that you need to spend to activate this ability. So you've got that resource management, and I believe, mate, you got one for each model in your warband, and it refreshed every turn.
Yes, you did. And the reason that people on stream at home are saying that card is quite hard to read because it's not very big.
Okay.
At the bottom of the card, I don't know if you can make it.
Let me see if I can zoom.
If not, I may have a solution in a second, but it is off a phone.
Here we go.
On the bottom of the card is different coloured banding. So like, there's red for melee, green for...
That's as big as I can make it.
Yeah.
It is going off.
Okay, that's not your fault. It is done. Yeah, it is hard to read, but it does actually get easier. So, across the top of your card, you've got 3 with a sword, which is like your what's called your melee mastery.
Yes, they're all termed masteries. Melee mastery, range mastery.
4 with the bow, which is your ranged mastery, and then like the spark is your magic mastery.
Yeah.
You then have the foot with the symbol. That's your number of movement in inches.
In inches, yeah.
What was the 5? Is that that's the leadership value, isn't it?
I can't remember, mate.
I'm fairly sure it was. And then 1 is the armor.
Yeah, so that's your damage reduction factor, basically.
And then obviously you've got your health points there.
Yeah, in the heart.
When you take your 2 actions, for example, you'll take a move action of 4 inches, and then you'll take an attack action. So when you take the attack action, you pick the red slot on your card, and your red slot is the Blessed Crossbow. You don't need to spend any activation points on it, or to boost it or activate it.
It's 0.
It's got a 12-inch range. At half range, if the target has a condition token, attack with +1 damage. So if it's blinded or other stuff, which we'll come to in a bit, you get an additional damage on it. It does 1 damage, and you throw 3 dice. Now, the reason we mentioned masteries earlier is because actually all of your dice have different symbols. So you've got the red dice, which has a skull on it, which is just a direct damage. It's got some blank faces on it. It's got a flag icon on it, which is the inspiration where you can use the tokens that you pre-design on your models to turn all of the ones that you roll that are inspiration into successes. And then you have one that is like a bow, a staff, and a sword all crossed together, which is your mastery. If you are mastery 3, you can change none of them. If you are mastery 4, you can change one of them to become a success. And if you're mastery 5, you can change all of them.
Oh, Christ
or
knows.
More of them. Something like that.
All I remember is that the mastery gave you a...
I've got the rule book here in front of me. Let's have a look.
Based on your mastery, you could manipulate the dice more successfully.
Yeah. So if your unit's mastery statistic is 3 or lower, change all mastery results to misses. If a mastery statistic is 4, change 1 result and a hit into the rest and misses.
Yeah.
If it's 5 or higher, change all mastery results to hits.
Yeah. Okay. And what's the mastery? A 1 in 6 on the dice or a 2 in 6?
Something like that, I think.
I don't know what the face distribution is off the top of my head.
I'll have a look in a minute. Right. You then have the card profiles. So red on your profiles is melee attack or ranged attacks. Blue is magic effects.
Yeah.
Or magical attacks. Yellow's a passive ability, so they're always active.
I'll see if I can find a card with a yellow.
And then greens are abilities which have an inspire. Yes, it's inspire is the mechanic on there.
Yeah.
So you have 1 success, 1 blank, 2 inspire results, and 2 mastery results on your dice.
Yeah. This has got
so you've got 1 in 6 per dice to hit.
The magical
and then
attacks.
Updating.
And this has got the yellow.
Yes. Yeah. So they're always active. No. The armor is not damage reduction. The armor is on the dice.
That's right.
So similarly to your attack dice, which are red, you've got a blue dice.
That's right. Your defense dice. Yeah.
The blue dice has, again, similarly, a dodge icon, a blank icon, 2 shield icons, 2 inspire icons.
I'm just thinking. I think these are ranges as well. I think I was lying to everybody earlier. These are ranges.
If you roll inspire, you can change all your inspire results to successes. If you roll your armor, your shield icon, if you've got certain points of armor, you can change equivalent to those points of armor to successes. So it's dice pool. It's not too bad. It's relatively easy to get going and get your head around it when you start playing, isn't it?
Just refresh your memory. What was that fist figure?
Oh, the only other thing to remember, we have a unique indicator, which is a star icon. You can only use that once per turn.
Yeah, and you've got the lightning bolt one.
And the lightning bolt is an effortless, so if you use that, it doesn't even cost you an action
it's like a free fast action. Yeah. And each miniature gets 2 actions per turn? I'm sure it was 2. But as you guys can tell...
Everything gets 2 actions.
Can you remember, what does the rulebook say? What was this fist stat? I don't remember even using it in the game that we played.
11, morale. Used in fleet actions and morale tests. That's why we didn't use it, because nothing fucking fleed or failed it.
I don't know if that's because the guy showing us the game forgot that it was a mechanic, but basically we only got rid of models when they died. Nobody ever had to take a morale test that I remember in our game. I think it's fair to say this game is pretty much by the numbers. There is nothing about this game that I can think of that is particularly clever or imaginative in terms of its mechanical execution of the tabletop wargame experience. Obviously, it's a great print and play game. You can make all of the stuff yourself, print all of the bits and bobs yourself. The cost of entry is going to be minimal if you already own a collection of wargaming terrain, isn't it? Buy yourself some custom dice and you're away with the fairies. Everything else is free.
I'll tell you, one thing I do like about this game, it plays very quickly. We play a 6 or 7 turn game in 40 minutes.
Yeah. For our first game?
Yeah, for our first game as well. It's flavorful because you've got obviously a pool of miniatures for a certain faction or a theme to then build your list around and agree to your opponents, okay, we're going to have 150 points, and what can you do to compile all that? So there's that, and you can lean more into magic, and it gives all of the factions a focus and a leaning without having to force it. So it's very generic. Again, it comes from that print and play aspect of, well, if you've got all the cool shit, just print what you want, build what you want, kind of thing. There were aspects of it, though, that were a bit weird. Like the dice pool...
To just address, just a minute, mate, just to address what Lindbergh is saying, it feels hard to master with so many things to think of per character. I would actually say, although each miniature has 4 abilities, if I can compare this to... yes, Darren, yes. if I can compare this to Malifaux 3rd edition, so Malifaux, each miniature has a double-sided card that might have 8 or 10 individually worded abilities or activated abilities. There are some that reproduce, so like the From Beyond, pardon me, sorry about that, the From Beyond ability on all of the Oni demons in the Ten Thunders faction reads the same on all of them, but the actual mental real estate to actually internalize 10 or 12 abilities on an individual character is way in excess of the mental load of this game. A lot of these abilities that we played with 8 or 10 characters in our 2 warbands in our starter game.
Yeah.
None of them were more than a couple of lines of text. They were all fairly intuitive and simple actions, like they made attacks better, they gave you more defense, they did a bit of range damage.
Or they buffed and procced off of the minis being in combat with stuff.
You know,
on my side.
You compare that to like Malifaux, where you might get an ability printed on a character that creates a type of token in the game that is unique to that character, and then is used in a unique way by other abilities on other characters that are you're talking about a whole new level of brain scrambling complexity. I don't think complexity is particularly a barrier to this game.
This is similar to Underworlds in complexity, I would argue, because Underworlds,
you've got comparison.
Your unit card and whether it's inspired or not, and the conditions on it to reach your inspire. Yeah. And then obviously Underworlds is complicated by what cards you've got in hand and what you're doing for on your objectives, or what you're doing for on your upgrades and powers and ploys.
That's true. But in terms of the way that the card hand interacts with the miniature, the unit cards in Underworlds is probably roughly about the same. I think David's got it on the nail, I think, with that, for your complexity.
And again, the playtime is very similar. The only concern we had from the scenario we played on demo was it was a capture the flag scenario with 3 flags. And basically it was deny your opponent a flag or get an opponent off a flag, win the game, with the point system on how they'd done it on the thing.
Yeah.
We then went away after we had tried this demo game and went and looked at the scenario book, which again, you've got free access to on the internet. There's about, I want to say 6 or 8 scenarios in there. And there's a few different ones. There's like a kill everything one, capture the flag, that kind of thing. So there's a few different play styles and methodologies for your scenarios, but I know you were quite concerned about it being a bit killy or a bit just mirror match your opponent and you're fine. So we're going to do some play testing.
There were 2 things that I walked away from the demo game with. One, it seemed very swingy. There's not a lot of dice mitigation. You don't roll a lot of dice in the game. And if you have a bad run of dice, you're done. There isn't.
Yeah, you get fucked.
There's no coming back. The other thing is, again, the way that the mission in the demo game was structured was probably flawed. But essentially, I couldn't see there's a lot of replayability or strategy in it because of the way the scoring worked. You had to deny the objectives to your opponent, giving them, even with 3 objectives, contesting 2 and letting them have 1 free, and then sort of pooling your resources to pick a fight. You're likely to lose because you cannot afford to let somebody have a free, unchallenged objective for 2 or 3 turns. So I was a little bit concerned about the replayability and the actual strategy, because it would just become, well, I have to match you man for man, So I just literally pick the right matches. So if I turn him against him, him against him, him against him, him again, and it becomes a bit of a lane-based thing where it's just like go head to head.
I've just seen something even cooler in the rules for your rosters, because initially with the playtest that we're on about doing, we're going to print you some very nice Japanese style models, and then we're going to print me something that I want to print.
Right.
But obviously you've got all those different realms, and then you've got what are called lineages, which are like all of your dwarf faction, all of your vampire hunter faction.
Is that... Oh, right. So that's just keyed off the faction lists.
Yeah, that's keys off your faction list. When you build your roster, for example, they're saying here, some of your blood points in each roster cannot exceed the number agreed upon by players or set by the scenario limits, i.e. 200 points. All units are divided into realms and lines. In a roster, units can be added from different lines within the realm. However, if all units come from the same line, they receive a loyalty bonus that is different for each line. So you get a loyalty bonus for just selecting all vampire hunters versus going vampire hunters and some dwarves.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
But it is very just pick what you want, play what you want.
Yeah. Okay. So you can theme for a bonus or just fucking splurge and just combo-tastic it up.
The other thing I will say about this, right? It's a 23-page rule book.
Yeah.
And there is a dedicated base list of either small on a 32, medium on a 40, or large on a 60. All of that can be found on the library. It's not a bad game. It's something that I've been meaning to get into for years. We demoed it at the show. It was all right. We're going to see if we can break the game before we recommend it to other people.
I'll be honest, another concern I had was the inspiration, wasn't it? Because, like, you could use inspiration to trigger certain abilities on certain characters. Or you could
hold it back
or
for
you could
damage
save
denial.
Inspiration for when you rolled your pool of dice and you got a ton of inspiration results, and then you could just transform them for 1 point into a massive successful hit.
Yeah.
And this was the bit about the game that seemed to me that a bit fucking random. Because
again, you've got a 1 in 6 chance to be a successful hit or dodge.
Yeah.
A 1 in 6 chance to miss or not dodge. And then you have a 1/3 chance, i.e. 2 of the 6 faces, to hit and need mastery. Or dodge and need mastery.
So mastery is 2 of 6, yeah.
And the other 2 of 6 is inspiration.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can have a situation where you hold back your inspiration in case you need it for that defense roll or that attack roll, and never see the dice symbols, or you can spend it on the action and then really need it
by the dice.
in the dice. And it seems an awkward one to play.
Yes,
because it is just like gambling. It's like there's very little strategy to it. It's just feel the random. You know, if the dice go well, I never needed it. If the dice go badly, come on, get me special abilities. And the problem is, because it works alternating activation, you never know when you're going to need it.
No.
It's quite tricky. As I say, I think both of the games in this stream, it's coming up to time, so we better wrap it up.
Yeah.
Both of the games in this stream, David and I would generally say hesitant thumbs up. They're good games. They're
all
worth
right.
exploring, but they didn't knock our socks off like the games we played last week. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that is fair. And again, I think some of it may have to do with demo and introductory games, and that may be a topic we cover on a later stream.
We're definitely going to revisit it, because I think it's talking about in its own...
Yeah, the fact that you can have a demo game. What do you bring to the table? What do you leave out? What questions would you ask of a player that's playing your game to say, oh, okay, well, actually, yes, we might have the dumbed down version at the expo, but actually these guys know what they're doing, and let's add in some stuff. Because again, that's what ended up happening with ZeoGenesis. We weren't playing with the critical role, and then because we kept asking, why is there a red dice on the table, and kept picking it up to throw it anyway, we ended up starting playing with the critical hit roll.
Yeah. Limburger's called it in the chat, in the comments. You've got it nailed, sir. And let's be totally fair to the guys at Titan Forge. The guy who demoed us the game, English was not his first language. He was an absolute legend. He read the room. He said, do you guys play many miniatures games? David and I obviously play a fucking ton of miniatures games. He was happy to let us just do our thing. He kept his eye on the ball.
What was it, after turn 2? He just left us fucking to it, didn't he?
And this is the other contrast between the two ones that we've talked about tonight. ZeoGenesis, the actual demonstrator, I believe, made some serious flaws in the execution of the demo. The guy from Titan Forge, I think the problem with the Titan Forge demo is the structure of the mission.
Yes.
I think that the way that the game had been planned out,
and again, we've discussed this recently anyway, as part of the Hobgoblin stream, of demos not necessarily giving us everything we want to know if we like the game or not. It's a tough one. We will be playing some more Bloodfields, definitely, because you want an excuse to paint some Japanese minis. And they are fucking gorgeous minis.
I think, given that the financial overhead to enter Bloodfields, the vast variety of models that are available, the fact that they all look damn cool, and there are some ones I saw on. I was going through your stills earlier, and I was, I need to find out. I need to hit you up and find out who that faction is or what that model is, because I'd be all over some of those miniatures. Given that it doesn't require a huge financial commitment, I'm happy to give this game some time.
Space.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was fine. It definitely won't be entering my top 5 most inspiring games to play, but I'm happy to give it the space and time it deserves, because it's, again, good credits to Titan Forge. You see, this is the thing. It's all about designing your product and having a well-rounded package. Is this the best, most spectacular, revolutionary, creative game in the world? Nope. Is it actually just a good game that's got a very low barrier of entry if you like 3D printing? Yep.
Has it got some pretty fucking cool minis? Yep.
You know, it's like, what's that phrase? Not everyone has to be a winner or a stormer or something. I can't remember. I'm old. I don't know what you.
Everything doesn't need to be a 10 and knocking it out of the park constantly for home runs. Yeah. We can do with the little 1-run games and the little 7s that are all right.
And as I say, ZeoGenesis again. I feel that there was more to the game than we were shown.
Allowed to see.
And that's why I said to David, we should download it and do a play test and explore it ourselves in our own time. We can proxy some models. You can print some fucking mechs, can't you? You must have 10,000 things you can print for it. So, right, let's wrap it up.
So yeah, it's an odd one. Again, this is pretty much all the demo content now from UKGE.
Possibly.
There is more UKGE content, but this is the demo, the stuff that we can comment on the demos,
the games we actually played,
spent time and played, other than having obviously a good spiel with people on stands and other bits and pieces.
Yep.
So it's certainly not the end of our UKGE goldmine, but play experience wise, night and day difference between this week and last week. Like this week and last week, we've already said that. Overall, they're all right. One's coming, one's already out in the public domain, and seems to have a good support for it because they ran a tournament at UKGE.
Yeah, you commented on that actually, and there was quite.
Admittedly,
a
I think there was only 12 entrants for it.
And wasn't there a good prize pot for it?
1,000 euros or something like that.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad for pushing some toy soldiers about. We should have been all of that, mate.
So all in all,
my competitive days are done.
Is what it is. So yeah, we'll round out now.
No, Limburger says there he's got so much stuff to play. His barrier for new games has gotten pretty high. I'll be honest, Limburger, I totally agree. And there are definitely games that David and I have, even if for no other reason than financial, but time is also a massive factor, we're going to be very reluctant to dig deep into anything new.
Again, Bloodfields is only here and on the list because I've already got it and I've been banging on about it for 2-3 years now. But I just haven't got round to pulling my finger out.
I'll be honest though, again, from a point of view of people who play lots of games and maybe want to see what's out there, this is why demo games are such a great little sort of trough to dig into.
Feed from, yeah.
You know, because you can get a good feel for what is they're offering, and you don't need to do anything other than but give them half an hour of your time. And as I say, I think it's definitely something that we enjoy when we go to these cons. And I think it's a value to share with you guys. Anyway, we've prattled on for long enough. It's well over our runtime. Thank you very much for everybody who was here tonight. Thank you very much for the chat, lurkers, and everybody else. You guys are the legends that make this show actually even half entertaining. We're just the idiots along for the ride. If you can only do one thing to support us, please click the like button either now while you're watching or later when you watch us on YouTube. If you can find time to do any of these other things that are listed down here, that we greatly appreciate it. I'm not going to bang on.
Sharing and commenting are always appreciated.
Yeah, very much so. And with that said, I think it's time, sir, that we said good night to the crowd, and we will see you all next week.
Yep. Ciao.